Good morning. My name is Meghan Ferriter, and I'm the project coordinator for the Smithsonian Transcription Centre. I want to thank the MicroPasts team for inviting me to share our experiences in crowdsourcing since the launch of the Smithsonian Transcription Centre in June 2013. I'm excited to tell you more about the ways that we've been working with our audiences to improve access to our collections and unlock the stories held within. The Smithsonian Transcription Centre is a website accessible 24 hours a day from around the world. It's a service in the sense that it is a systematic way of processing data, a place of discovery and access to Smithsonian collections, and an administrative tool. It's a series of products, but also a process through which workflows and experiences are improved. Finally, it's a program of engagement, inclusive, inquisitive, amplifying, and cross-promotional. We learn as much as we share, and it's a process, but also a product on which better engagement can be built. The aspects of the website, service, and program of engagement are intertwined and require each other for success. 5 other themes emerge across the Transcription Center experiences every day, and I hope you'll see these crop up as I explain more about the Smithsonian Transcription Center. This includes being flexible, iterative, collaborating with Smithsonian groups as well as volunteers, and learning with them every day. And finally, the ways we make connections across projects, as well as connecting our volunteers with Smithsonian staff, behind-the-scenes opportunities, and the deep discovery of Smithsonian collections. The Smithsonian Institution is 19 museums, archives, galleries, and libraries, 9 research centers, and a zoo. The Smithsonian Transcription Center shares collections from 13 of these GLAMs with volunteers. That means our transcribable materials are diverse, ranging from handwritten field notes to typewritten specimen labels, from ledgers to letters to logbooks, and from photo albums to manuscripts. The Smithsonian Transcription Center was born out of needs, context, and opportunity. As the Smithsonian Institution groups took on the challenge of digitizing their collections, archival units in particular noticed the behavior of researchers. What if digitized collections could have text associated with their images? Text that could be searched and shared more easily with researchers, staff, and the public. Some framing questions for the start of the Smithsonian Transcription Center included improving and increasing the quality of engagement, increasing access and use of resources, creating pathways for learning and new knowledge, and maintaining and building trust with audiences and stakeholders. The Smithsonian Transcription Center brings together these opportunities in a flexible space that meets the evolving needs of and can be adapted for the specific priorities and workflows of 13 different Smithsonian groups. Internally, we call these groups units. Our volunteers also tell us that they love the flexibility of the experience of transcribing and the ability to move between projects and tasks easily. Developed in spring 2013, the Smithsonian Transcription Center was launched in June 2013. Let me take a moment to applaud our fantastic development team and my colleagues, Rich Brassel, Randy Arnold, Andrew Gunther, and Mike Shaw, as well as our project manager, Ching-Sian Wong. Their vision and understanding of many evolving needs, from those of participating Smithsonian groups to those of volunteers, means that we can do more together every day. The technology that the development team used to create the Smithsonian Transcription Center is all open source, while the system that's been created is tightly integrated with Smithsonian Institution systems and databases. The initial goal of the Smithsonian Transcription Center was to create indexed searchable text that would help unlock collections for research purposes. Quickly, the ability to create fielded data or the metadata for new collection records emerged as a different goal of transcription, also possible within the Transcription Center. Here's one of my favorite examples of searching on indexed text in Collection Search Center. If you search on Joust of Windmills, you'll find this page from Vernon Bailey. You may notice there are multiple ways to access the Transcription Center from Collection Search Center, where this record is located. This demonstrates the way the Transcription Center is tightly tied to other Smithsonian services. As Smithsonian staff work to digitize item-level collections, skeletal records are created. The metadata that's transcribed from specimens labels, like these botanical specimen sheets, are used to flesh out those records. Then that data can be searched by researchers around the world. But could we have narrative transcription and metadata transcription in the same place? We accommodated these distinct tasks by creating templates and project-specific instructions linked to and accessible from each transcription page. As we've continued to grow, we've also discovered that the unspoken goals of showcasing collections, engaging audiences, and learning together are regularly fulfilled in exciting and unexpected ways. So how does transcription work exactly in the Smithsonian Transcription Center? It's a three-step peer review process. That means that anyone can transcribe, while only registered volunteers can review. A final pass is made by Smithsonian staff to approve the items. The three-step review process sees pages move back and forth between transcribe and review, often as frequently as 5 times, to meet high-quality standards. We've worked closely with participating groups as well as volunteers to make projects more discoverable on the site. We do this by making sure there are many windows and doors through which volunteers can climb and get started on projects. Once a volunteer selects a project, they can get started on the project page in a number of ways. First of all, they can see information about the project, including the Smithsonian group that's sharing it with the Transcription Center. They can also start activity by using the Start Transcribing or Start Reviewing buttons. Furthermore, they can see pages that need transcription or review or have notes on them. They can also track project metrics, including how many other volunteers may have participated on the project with them. As noted, the Transcription Center is also an administrative tool for participating groups. This is an example of the administrative page for approving a page and reviewing the content that's been transcribed. You'll see there's a transcription field, notes that volunteers have left about the transcription, and the ability to change the status of the page. This page is a great example of the iterative process, as it was developed through work with units over time as they've administered projects. We've seen 3 main developments in the Transcription Center's life. The first phase of development started in June 2013. At about 6 months growth, we had about 500 active volunteers and 75 completed projects. We had 8 units and 2 templates. The Smithsonian Transcription Center audiences continued to grow through July 2014. After about a year of growth, we had just over 1,500 active volunteers, 141 completed projects, and 10 participating units, and had added a 3rd template for logbooks. After a boom in August 2014, we continued to grow steadily. We now have just under 5,000 active volunteers and 619 completed projects. That also includes 13 participating units and just under 75,000 completed pages. Our pilot phase allowed us to consider how we should run a program of engagement. That included thinking about the volunteer motivation to connect and help the Smithsonian, as well as using templates to drive workflow. We were also able to explore some assumptions and concerns, including those related to misbehavior and vandalism and quality and trustworthiness of transcription. Furthermore, we knew the motivation at this point. They were here. How could we continue to extend engagement? And how could we use the resources we had to amplify experiences for units and volunteers? We discovered the more we transcribed together, the more connectedness we found, and the better we got at transcription. So we continued to roll out our program of engagement. And people tell us we do it a little differently at the Smithsonian Transcription Center. One thing we do is stay focused on the process and the product. That's how we're getting there and how what we're doing can improve what we're creating. Being collaborative and cross-promotional means that we're working with Smithsonian groups across social media and in person to plan, and volunteers, or volunpeers as we call them, and they call themselves, work with each other to complete projects. We don't want to just say what we have in our collections. We want to hear what volunteers have to say, what they're discovering, and what questions they have, and then find ways to help them answer those questions. This is how we've discovered more about our collections and the ways our collections intersect with other external programs too. Collaborative competition is one way that we keep the barrier to entry low. We want to make sure that volunteers can work together to see what they can achieve. Volunteers are able to keep track of the work that they've done through their My Work page, but we don't have a public leaderboard. Collaborative competition also allows us to focus on skills acquisition, learning how to do the nuances of transcription a little bit better each time. You've probably noticed I say we a lot in this presentation. I probably blur the boundaries between volunteers and the Smithsonian because I learn just as much as volunteers do through the process of transcription. Together, we're making this a better space for everyone to participate. A lot of that learning happens with behind-the-scenes access as well. We want to make sure that volunteers are able to see more and learn more and understand the hidden stories behind the materials with which they're working. Most importantly, we want to underscore the incredible effort and time volunteers spend with us to make our collections more accessible. They're also the reason I come back to work every day. Their enthusiasm is infectious and motivating. I'm going to use the word we again. We stay busy, and that's me, volunteers, and Smithsonian staff working together, though we're each working on a different part of the process. We're helping researchers by making index searchable text and by creating metadata for collection records. But another thing that we do is spend time sharing what is happening in the projects. We do that by highlighting various campaigns, including Friday Final Lines, Transcribe Tuesday, and Monday Mind Melter. We encourage volunteers to review with targeted campaigns, like a 7-day review challenge. We also ask volunteers to share what they're discovering with MyTC Discovery. While many of these examples use social media is not required to communicate with us. We also communicate with volunteers directly by email. This dialogue helps us set the stage to think about working together more effectively. Volunteers can work together on projects using on-site and off-site resources. One way volunteers find projects is to look in the latest updates on the homepage. Volunteers also leave notes for each other in the Notes on Transcribing This Page section or on Twitter, making a record of their activity. Some volunteers also ask each other nuanced questions about transcribing. This is an excellent example of the ways in which consensus is reached around transcription practice. Let's talk a bit about the connections and motivations that volunteers make while they're transcribing. In this example, one volunteer links current transcription with a project that was transcribed last February. That demonstrates the ways that volunteers develop expertise in the system and in projects as they transcribe. Other times, volunteers connect our projects with external projects or programs. Recently, some volunteers have begun connecting Transcription Center data with external citizen science projects. This is particularly exciting because it brings Smithsonian Transcription Center data to life in multiple ways, both in the context of Smithsonian collections and in relation to external scientific inquiry. It seems though there could be something for everyone in the Smithsonian Transcription Center. Volunteers tell us there are tasks to suit their schedule or the time that they have on hand. And of course, there are projects about which they become passionate or to which they relate closely. But one of my favorite things about our volunteers is the ways in which they welcome new volunteers and make space for those volunteers to learn how to transcribe and make mistakes. Of course, we want accurate data, but making mistakes within a peer review process allows people the space to learn how to transcribe and lets existing volunteers refine their skills as well. A quick note on the word volunteers. Volunteers is a hashtag that I created so that volunteers could share information with each other using the structural devices of spaces like Twitter and other social media networks, including swift search for help or signaling to others that volunteers themselves needed help. It has also become a term that volunteers have adopted for use among themselves. It can also be used as a signal or call to action for challenging projects, pages that need extra help, or just resources or things that may be of interest to other volunteers. Some people don't consider themselves volunteers. They think about their activity as contributing and helping the Smithsonian on their own. And that's okay. We welcome a flexible experience with the Smithsonian Transcription Center. Not every participant has to feel as though they're part of the community, nor do they have to use the hashtag volunteers, nor do they have to communicate with me directly, but they're welcome to at any time if they'd like, and a community is always waiting to welcome them if they'd like to engage in that way. Our volunteers told us they wanted more information about the projects in which they were working. The best way we could think to connect them to that information was to give them behind-the-scenes access, with curators, collections managers, and more. These behind-the-scenes moments allow volunteers not only to get insight about what Smithsonian staff find interesting about collections, but also to ask questions of that staff directly. And our staff are just as excited to participate in behind-the-scenes events too. They have the opportunity to speak directly with volunteers and share their expertise, as well as gather insight about the ways audiences relate to and describe their collections. We've also held Google Hangouts to discuss the ways that we're transcribing, and especially in preparation for review. It's always fascinating and always fun. Let's talk a bit about our frequently contributing volunteers. Our top 25 users by total events have all done more than 4,000 transcriptions and reviews together. Some of these volunteers work across projects, while others stay dedicated to certain types of projects. 6 volunteers have worked on over 100 projects, and all but 7 have been active within the last week. These volunteers have obviously been busy completing over 108,000 total transcriptions and reviews. Whether they remain dedicated to one project type or move from project to project, these volunteers have contributed to 40% of the activity on the Smithsonian Transcription Center. Recently, I was asked, what are the Smithsonian Transcription Center's top successes? I was never any good at top 10 lists, so I'm going to give you what I think is pretty great as of today. It's been just over a year since we've made PDFs available to the public. This is important because it closes the loop on making the transcription available to people who work on it. At any point during transcription, a volunteer can take a page away as a PDF download, and when the project is 100% complete, the volunteer can take the entire project away. I see this as useful for researchers, staff, and the public alike. The second thing that's been extremely useful is making a notes on transcribing this page field. This allows volunteers to communicate with each other and also with staff members, or to signal pages that might be difficult, to share helpful resources, and also to leave amusing anecdotes. Many people are unaware that Smithsonian collections relating to a person or an expedition may be spread across parts of the institution. The Transcription Center is a fascinating place because it brings all of these materials together in a digital space in which volunteers make connections. It's always a success to bring a new part of the Smithsonian on board, whether that's a new team or a new set of collection materials. Maybe I'm pushing my luck with the number of successes, but I'll just say that connecting Transcription Center data to external sources and having success in 7-day review challenges and spending time hanging with volunteers and staff members has all been very rewarding. You can't beat the daily discovery and improvements that are made with addressing workflows and group needs. Finally, and I know I'm biased, watching the community form, collaborate, and grow, and yes, fight to define their cultural values has been an amazing experience. Even with those successes, there are some challenges ahead. As with everyone, resources, whether that's time, money, or brain power, can be strained at certain times. Several of my top objectives include pinpointing solutions that are scalable for addressing resource needs. Other challenges include maintaining a balance and the ecology of the site across projects and different kinds of material that's directly related to workflow demands and digitizing material. We also want to share best practice to help other crowdsourcing, citizen science, and digital humanities projects establish workflows and great community. Some of my next objectives include working with our participating groups to refine their workflows and improve upon them, to continue to iterate and gather feedback from volunteers and participating groups, and integrate that feedback into the improvement of the user interface, to build upon the assessment of quality we've completed thus far, to continue with high-quality engagement with our volunteers, showcasing their discoveries, encouraging review of projects, learning more from them, and improving upon the techniques we use to communicate with them. And finally, continuing to build upon the solid foundation of projects and materials we have within the Transcription Center, while also introducing and integrating new participants. Let me close this presentation with a great quote from volunteer Siobhan Leachman. As Siobhan suggests, doing transcription opens pathways to new experiences. And transcribing together in a collaborative and flexible environment means that we can journey further and faster together. Thank you for allowing me to join you today and share more about the experiences of the Smithsonian Transcription Center. I hope you enjoy the rest of the MicroPasts conference. If you have questions or you'd like to chat more about engagement, discovery, and crowdsourcing, please email me at transcribe@si.edu or tweet me at MeganInMotion, that's Megan with an H, or at TranscribeSI. Or feel free to ask volunteers more about their experiences too. Thank you so much.